there's not really much of a chance. So I mean, there's an element of that. Every time he hunts, he's learning from it. Whether he's consciously making that decision that I'm going to practice on these wildebeest, and if it comes right, then it comes right, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't think so. I think he really intentionally wants to try and kill a wildebeest. But what he's doing is he's having a situation where he's probably thinking to himself, well, I'm going to try my luck, and if it comes right, yes, that's great, but I want to kill a wildebeest, and I've got to practice to try and get to that wildebeest. And so he's learning how to hunt all the time, but he definitely wants to kill it. It's not like he's kind of unfazed by what the outcome is. He wants a meal, and he's going to try his very best to get a meal. But if he doesn't get it right, he'll learn from his mistake, and then he'll try again another day, and that's how it kind of goes on. And that's how they become these skilled hunters. Also, some leopards are better hunters than others, so we know that some leopards will specialize in warthogs and various other things. Is he coming out there, Sens? Can you see him? So he's coming along. There we go. You see him there. Now, the wildebeest are still far. They've drifted a little bit further than what I thought they would have. But he's slowly kind of going towards them. And I think what he needs to do is he needs to go after these calves, because the calves are inexperienced. They're the ones that are not paying attention. The adults are all facing away, and the calves are actually quite isolated at the moment. So the calves are just here off on my left-hand side. And where he's going, if he can kind of get through to that thicket across the road without anybody noticing him, so if he can get into there, then he's got a situation where he's got a direct access to those calves without any adult in the way. So it's going to be interesting to see. There he comes. He's coming out of the thicket now. So now he's got a kind of a bit of a dilemma. A little bit to your left, I think, Sans. There he is, yeah. So he's got a dilemma now as to what does he do. Does he do a little make or break and kind of trot over? But there's one wildebeest that's watching him, I think. There we go. There's one wildebeest that's onto the fact that there's something moving here. But look, he's using the thicket between him and the wildebeest to try and get closer. This is so cool to watch. Right, there he goes across the road. Look, he's leopard crawling. So I think, Kirst, we can do an action broadcast, although the wildebeest are all coming now. Hold on. They've already spooked, so he's unfortunately not done the job. So he's just too out in the open is what the problem is. You can see the wildebeest are now very aware that something is up, and now they're starting to snort. So he'll hopefully just stay lying down, because I don't think they can see exactly where he is, but they definitely noticed something. Listen. No, they're not going to do it, are they? There we go. You hear that snort? So that snort is when they see a predator. That's when they make that noise like that. And Thamba's just trying to keep his head down at the moment. He's trying to stay as camouflaged as possible and try and keep hidden. I don't think the wildebeest know 100% where he is, but they can definitely spot something. Very cool to see. It just goes to show how difficult it is for these leopards to try and hunt on quarantine. It's why we don't see many kills on quarantine, is because without the sort of use of others or the darkness, it becomes insanely tough. You know, where the wildebeest are as well, as they're much higher than Thamba at the moment, so they're going to be seeing down into the grass, and they'll be able to spot him. Even though from our angle it looks like he's well hidden, from their angle they'll probably be able to see the top of his head quite well. And it's amazing how the wildebeest react. Did you see how they all came running to where the calves were, and they've now created a barrier between them and the calves. The calves are all sitting in the middle, and the wildebeest themselves are all, the adults are all on the edges, trying to just kind of protect them. So there you go, the calves in the middle over there, and then all the adults to the front side just to protect. So all those adults were actually far away, and they came running in between those calves to try and almost create a barrier between them. It's absolutely amazing to watch how organized they can be when it comes to these kind of things. But the hunt is effectively over now. The wildebeest know something's up. They're alarm calling. They can probably sense he's here or see him, and so they're going to, you know, be very wary now, and they'll probably push off further on to quarantine, a little bit further away, and try and stay away from this section. And poor Thamba, unfortunately, will have learned from that. But like I say, he left it too late. If he had been this sort of approach when they were still here in the thickets, then he would have had a much better chance of going after these wildebeest than what he did now. But anyway, it was interesting to watch how he goes about it. He's getting there slowly but surely, and I'm sure he'll eventually crack this code. If he keeps sitting on quarantine, he'll eventually get it, and hopefully he'll get him with a meal at some point. Right, now while we kind of see what the wildebeest do, and while we kind of wait for Thamba to decide what he wants to do, let's send you back across to James Hendrai, who's gotten back to the lions, and hopefully it will be a active sighting for him this morning.
Now we're sitting with a rather distressing sighting over here. It's a lion, young lion, probably just over a year old, I'd say, and I mean, we thought initially dead. Well, not dead, but certainly not well. We were told by another vehicle that it was lying here and wasn't very well, and you can see it's just barely breathing there. And this is not a lion that is full, so it's not like he's lying there in some kind of stupor. There's either injury or disease involved here. And of course, for a lion to survive from something like this, well, very difficult. Just the odd twitch of the ear, but that's largely the wind blowing over the poor creature. So we're not going to spend long here. We came along here hoping to find the male again. He's gone to ground in the thick bush around this ditch. Anyway, I think that's probably enough of that rather sickly lion. I've no idea what's wrong with him or her, and probably a member of the Marsh Breakaway Pride. I think that's the area that we're in now, but I'm afraid more than that I cannot tell you. So I think this rather sad scene should be left, and we'll see what else we can see. And I know most of you will say this is very sad. It is. It's horrible, isn't it? Oh, I see the tail twitching slightly. Oh, hang on. Looks like it's rolling over slightly, Arch. No. Let's just have one last look there. Foot is up. Does seem to be covered in some kind of muck. Maybe mud. Most likely mud. But where the rest of the pride is anyone's guess. There's no sign of them around here. Yeah, I think let's leave this poor little thing in peace. I'll give it another 10 seconds to move, but I don't think it's going to. Something in the shade there, is there? Michael, I'm afraid I don't really know. You say have there been recorded cases of white muscle disease in the Mara? I've got no idea. I've certainly never read of any, but I haven't read of much disease in the Mara. For those of you who are new viewers, white muscle disease was a disease that we only came across, when was it? It wasn't last year, it was in 2016, after the drought, and the lions were eating buffalo sort of at will, but the buffalo had been very severely affected by the drought, and so their meat didn't contain the nutrition that the lions needed, and it meant that the cubs got very sick. They got very fat, but there was a lack, I think it was vitamin E, which interacted with something else. I forgot which hormone exactly. Anyway, it resulted in them wasting away and having their spines basically started to not atrophy, but they got muscular dystrophy, which not the disease, but the muscles in the back and the back legs started to wither away, started to atrophy, and that was white muscle disease. And ever since then, we've been on the lookout for it everywhere. Us and of course all of our viewers, and I've never heard of it happening here. I would suspect that it's very unlikely in an area like this, because this is not an area where there is artificial water provision, which means that animals will dissipate, and I think the variety of things to eat here is probably that much greater than it is in the Sabi Sands during a drought season. So in the Sabi Sands, there's artificial water provision, which means that those buffalo were always going to be around there. And while there certainly could have been things like impala and, the odd zebra and wildebeest for the lions to eat in the Sabi Sands, they chose not to eat them because it was just easier to catch buffalo. Those buffalo wouldn't have been there but for the fact that there was artificial water. So, that situation doesn't occur here, so I would imagine that the likelihood of white muscle disease possibly smaller, but again, I'm just talking off the top of my head, making wild suppositions and deductions as I drive along. It's starting to warm up quite a lot now, and all the animals have moved off this little plain, obviously looking for some shelter and shade. Now I believe that Ali is going back towards her termite mound, and that the termite mound she was looking at earlier has had a relatively successful morning.
Now, I believe Ali's got a few little gremlins aboard, so you're back with us, and Thamba has gone into, well, I don't even know what to call this, but a thicket. Let's call it that. I've actually lost him already because I'm trying to kind of negotiate through here, but I can't see anything, and I'm a bit worried that I'm going to drive directly over where he's sitting, because you never know with him. He kind of just lies down right underneath the bush right in front of you, and then you've got a situation where you kind of drive towards him. So hopefully he's not behind this bush. No, he would have run out by now. Sens, do you see anything? So we lost him coming in here 2 minutes ago. The good news is that I've seen something that's going to make Taylor McCurdy very, very happy, because I just saw Daryl the elephant on quarantine as well. So I'll try and go and find him if we lose Thamba now, and go and spend some time with Daryl. We know that Taylor absolutely loves Daryl the elephant, and he's got a big hole in his ear. That's how we know who he is. Where did he go, Sens? Thamba, where did you go, boy? I'm going to try and head down this way. I don't think we could have lost him that quickly. I doubt that he would have run anywhere. Let's just check that he's not come down this side. No, nothing there. Thamba, what have you done? It seems as though Tamba's given... there he is, I can see him now as well. Well done, Senzo. So he's just down the drainage line, sneaking through the thicket, which I suppose is the case when a whole bunch of wildebeest are shouting at you and running after you. I would also be going into a drainage line and just trying to kind of stay away. So what we'll do is we'll spend some time with Thamba now, just see where he ends up, just so we can know where to look for him this afternoon. And then once we've done that, we'll go and have a little time with Daryl the elephant, because I know Taylor will be very happy to see him, and a lot of you. It's an elephant that many of you will actually know, so it will be a good animal to go and spend some time with him and go and see him. I believe he was on the dam cam yesterday, and so that makes it quite nice for a lot of you as well. Now I wonder if he's going to go drink water here, because there's a nice bit of water that's right here. Can I get down here? Yes, I should be able to. You see where he is? 1 o'clock. Okay, perfect. Oh, there he is up on the top. So no, he's not drinking water. Am I going to be able to get up here? Yes. There we go. Right, so it seems as though the car doesn't want to get up here, which is a bit of a problem. So while I try and negotiate this thicket, let's send you back across to Ali, who it sounds like can hear Kirsty talking once again.
Well, we are missioning in the bush. Apparently there was a report that Shidulu had actually climbed down the tree and made another kill. Now, we have gone onto where she was, and the only part that we can confirm is that she's definitely not there anymore. But we haven't been able to find her, so I've been trying to go roughly around this area, because they said she was just on the opposite side of the tree. However, we haven't seen a kill or a leopard or any signs of her whatsoever. There's been a lot of activity up and down this road, probably because the lions are not too far into Simambili. So I would assume that the tracks could have been squashed. But again, we've been driving around just very, very slowly, checking very carefully. No clue, no signs of the leopard. So I wonder perhaps where she could have gone off to. Now I think our plan is going to be to carry on checking a little bit further north, perhaps a little bit more towards the gate, and see if perhaps she's not there and she went off to that area. Because there was an impala that we saw earlier on around there, so maybe she's just gone. She's not exactly where they said, but she could have moved a little bit, which wouldn't surprise me. but no leopard for now. So we're just in a bit of a mission, looking for the spots. A little bit of bundu bashing in the morning. Yeah, this is where we came from, so we went all the way south just trying to check, and the road is not too far, so we're in a good position in between where she last was and then there's a squirrel there. Where are you alarming to, squirrel? Okay, you're looking in that direction. There's a squirrel alarming, so I'm gonna carry on going over there. Hopefully the squirrel can spot a leopard, and then we'll carry on. Now, squirrels have very sharp eyesight, so sometimes they do help us, although they can alarm at pretty much anything, and that could be an eagle as well. They sometimes can help us in finding the creatures that we're looking for, so I'm hoping that this squirrel was going to prove us right in this regard. And there are lots of marulas and different trees around here, so it could be a good area for her if she has indeed made another kill, and if she is indeed in here. Now I want to drive very slowly, just again so that we don't miss anything. We're going to carry on searching all around here, but while we do that, I think we are going to head back to James Henry, all the way back in the Mara, who seems to just be loving bumbling about.
Now, we have left our line, as you saw, and we are heading back towards where we had the jackals and the elephants, and we're going to spend a bit of time there before we make our way down towards the southern reaches of the northern parts of the triangle. And I'm just driving over an area where I can imagine, as many of you know, Taylor and Jamie, and obviously not Brent, but everybody else managed to get stuck. And that must have been utterly impossible to drive around here up to about 3 weeks ago. It looks like there is mud everywhere. And the roads are quite bouncy as we go. Lots of elephants up ahead, so we'll go and have a look at them. Amanda, all the way from Alabama, you're wondering if animals here get bitten by snakes. Yes, they do from time to time. I don't think it happens very often. Certainly in the Sabi sands, we think that we lost one of our leopards, not one that we used to see very often, but a leopard called Kwatile, which means the angry one. We think that she died of a snake bite. So it does happen. But as much as snakes are afraid of us and move away from us, they will move away from the bigger animals as well, and the bigger animals know to avoid them. They are almost universally feared. And a snake will not bite anything unless it is trying to eat it, or unless it feels threatened by it. And you must remember that it's very expensive for a snake to bite something, because if it has to use up that very expensive protein, well, it's very difficult indeed. Sorry, I'm just going to have to stop here.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
How are things?
Fine.
Good. We are live at the moment. Yes. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on exactly. Can we link away, Kirst? We need to just deal with the situation here.
What's the permits?
We're just getting the permit numbers, everybody. Alright. Gloria, give me your permit number, please.
Now, sorry about that, everybody. James seems as he's got a few things he needs to sort out on that side, but you can see while we were following Thamba that we managed to find a very cool caterpillar. How cool is this guy? It looks just like a branch, and it's got these crazy little kind of protrusions off the tail end that are almost like little sticks. So I can imagine on a tree it would be impossible to see this guy, but how cool is it? And he's got a serious moves going on, so I might not be able to dance and Scott might not be able to dance, but this is certainly a caterpillar that's giving Brentley Smith a run for his money. So Brent, if you can get a dancing caterpillar, then we are, well, that's the new challenge. Is like I say, we couldn't dance, but we got a dancing caterpillar, that's for sure. How cool is that? Now, through all of this chaos of the dancing caterpillar, Thamba has just burst through a bush and chased a scrub hare, but he's managed to miss it. He's now just walking off on my left-hand side. Sorry, that was my hand that went in front of the lens. I do apologize. Now, Caterpillar, you're going to come for a drive with us because we need to follow Thamba. But he went bursting through a bush and just kind of chased a scrub hare, but he missed, unfortunately. He was close, but he missed. There he is in front of us now, just kind of walking along, and he's going straight to a termite mound, which I hope he's going to sit on. It's the same termite mound that Hukamuri has sat on twice when I followed him through here, and I've seen Tundi on that termite mound as well. So it's a place where leopards like to sit, and luckily he's walking on the exact route that I follow Hukamuri through when he walks this way, which has now been the last 3 or 4 times he's walked this way. I followed him in this direction, so it will be nice if Thamba just takes the same path and just kind of, there we go, onto the termite mound. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. It looks like he's going straight onto the termite mound, and it's a nice termite mound. It's a pretty kind of open, quite sort of small termite mound, so you get the cats at eye level, which is very, very cool. Now, Thamba, are you going to go up? Oopsie, there's a big log that's in the way. Now, Thamba looks as though he is going to go and lie on the mound. There we go. Just get over that little log. So there we go, that's the mound I was talking about, which is absolutely beautiful. D-hugs? No, I've never seen a fully grown leopard chase its tail, to be honest. Leopards are quite intelligent creatures, and so to see a leopard chase its tail would be pretty weird. I've never seen, like I say, a fully grown leopard try it, or even a sub-adult. You see little cubs sometimes doing it, but fully grown adult leopards, no, never. Now you can see why I like this termite mound, because have a look at that for a view of a leopard and then the sort of landscape that follows. Are you going to be a good boy and lie on top for us? Oh, there we go, Thamba. Well done, boy. Except that you've lay exactly where there is a protrusion. Hold on, Sense. Let's just reposition here. Because he's lying not in an ideal situation. He's lying where I didn't want him to lie. But anyway, it's okay. Am I right there, Sense? Now, with these roos, I can't see anything when I reverse. So I don't want to have a... No. Okay. So we can't go that way. We're going to have to go around the other way. Let's do a big loop like this. Come on, Rusty, round you go. And we should be in a good position fairly shortly. And what about, how's that, Sense? That's as good as one could ask for. I think so. It's, like I say, a perfect little mound for a leopard to sit on, isn't it? It's kind of open and clear, and it's just got the right shape for leopard, and the sort of setting that it's in, because of how open it is all around it, it kind of just feels really cool to see a leopard on here. And it's a very popular one. Like I say, Hukamuri sits on here whenever he walks past, and so does Tundi as well. Mr. Baked Bagel, you want to know if there's a correlation between leopard and cheetah tears. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, because, we don't... I mean, if you're referring to the black markings under the eyes, the tear stripes that they've got, well, no, there's no correlation, because as you can see on a leopard, they don't have tear stripes. So cheetahs are the ones that have the tear markings that come down, whereas a leopard has just the whitish kind of marking underneath the eye. And the reason why cheetah have black is to try and reduce glare, whereas leopard have lighter colors to try and bring light into the eye, because most of their hunting is at night, versus the cheetah's kind of predominantly diurnal hunting, which it seems as though in the Masai Mara is complete nonsense, because the cheetah there often are hunting at night as well. So, but yes, there's no correlation. As you can see, this leopard has no tear mark that comes down. He's got dark markings and spots, but there's no tear stripe that the cheetah's got coming down on his face. He's got a very different kind of marking on his face at the moment. So no correlation in that regard at all. In the markings that you see around eyes, though, will indicate how the animal moves and what it gets up to. So if it's a predominantly diurnal hunter, then it's going to have more dark markings under the eyes. If it's a predominantly nocturnal hunter, then, or animal that moves at night, then lighter markings under the eyes. Oh, that was a very, very vigorous shake, Thamba. Well done. If there was a fly on you, it has now been thrown to the next game reserve in the Manyeleti, probably, because he's just shaken himself silly, really. Right, Thamba, what's your move from here? Are you going to spend the day here? I would very much like for you to spend the day here, because it would make my life a lot easier, or Ali's life. I'm sure Ali will want to come see Thamba this afternoon, to find him atop of this mound. It's a nice, easy access to this mound, so it would be very, very kind if he did stay here. The problem is that it looks like the clouds are breaking up a little bit, and so maybe there'll be a bit of sun. And if sun comes out, Thamba is definitely not going to stay here at all. He's going to have a situation where he's probably going to have to move, because he's going to get baked if he stays on top there. There's no shade on this mound whatsoever, so he'll probably have to do a bit of moving if that's the case. But it looks as though he's going to groom himself now to settle down for a little bit, although we've been saying that all morning and he just keeps getting up and moving. Right, now while I sit here and see whether or not Thamba decides to spend his day on this mound, let's send you across to Ali and see whether or not she's had any more luck with Shidulu.
No luck whatsoever. We cannot seem to find her now. We don't even know if she's actually on this side, and I'm starting to become a little bit skeptical of this report. There are two very thick, bushy spots that I would like to check, just in case she is lying there, and they would be quite hard for us to see her. But I think we've pretty much driven up and down anywhere we could think of, and well, leopards also have a very good way of hiding, so she could just be standing still and it would be impossible for us to see her. But we haven't been able to pick up anything. We are definitely checking, but no idea. Elizabeth, you are wondering, and I might have gotten this wrong, but you are wondering if a termite mound and a medicine would have a baby or a cub, if it would be called a chicken mound. Is that what you said, Cursed? I'm sorry, I'm just getting very confused. I think it's a joke, but chicken medicine. Oh my goodness, I'm so focused on this thing that everything is actually going straight above my head, and I apologize. Ferg thinks that it would be called chicken mound, and chicken medicine is obviously the hukumuri male. I was so completely out of touch with what you were saying. I'm so sorry. It's actually a very funny joke. So between Shidulu, which means termite mound, and the hukumuri male, which is chicken medicine, if their baby, what would their cub be called? Now, hopefully it would not have the names of any of the adults. I don't think it would be great. Ferg, you say that maybe chicken mound, is that what it would be called? So like a chicken mound, but can we call it hukudulu then? Like, that would be a good combination of the two of them. Hukudulu it would be then. All right, now all we need to do is actually found the mom, the shidulu, but I think maybe she's just not around. She's not ready to have cubs. She heard her joke. She ran away. She's like, nope, I've already done my mating for now. I do not want you people to call my baby Hukudulu, although I think it would be a hilarious name. And she's gone. I was hoping that she would be around here, but I think we need to call her search off, because definitely nowhere around here. I don't know, I think I'm going to go check just by the gate one last time, just so that we don't lose hope, but seems like we haven't had any luck. Seems like Tristan, however, is being a little bit luckier than us this morning with beautiful Thamba. So let's back to... If I can talk, let's go back to him.
Well, we are having luck, because he's still sitting on top of the mound looking ever so regal and giving us a real show. Yawn, scratch. See, men can do two things at once. And I'm with Ali. I quite like the Hukudulu name. Can you imagine? It would be quite funny. Chicken mound would be, yes, quite ridiculous, but we're in the realm of ridiculous at the moment anyway, so we might as well just continue with it. At least it will be a good matchup to Not Barbara as well. So there's kind of great names floating around for leopards at the moment. It's thoroughly entertaining. And of course, in all seriousness, we're going to have to try and not Barbara's name out, because I don't think anyone's actually given her a name as yet, which is a bit of a shame, because I would have thought by now she would have been given something. Now, Thamba, what's wrong, boy? You're very restless this morning. He's kind of looking around. I think he's hungry. I think he wants food, and he's kind of looking and trying to just scan everywhere, and the ticks are driving him crazy. He keeps trying to scratch the back of his neck, and there's actually blood all over the back of his neck from where he's been scratching. He's kind of pulled one or two of those ticks off, and that's left him bleeding a little bit, and so he's got lots of blood that's kind of formed there. Okay, Thamba, I'm going to come round and try and follow him and see where he gets going now, because I was hoping he was going to spend time on the mound, but alas, it doesn't seem so. So ML, you say you just wish the huge tick on his eye would drop off. ML, I'm with you. It's, you know, Thamba's got such a pretty face that the tick on the eye is not exactly ideal, is it? We would rather he not have the tick on the eye. And imagine how irritating it must be to have a tick on your eyelid all day long. It must be a serious frustration. Right, let me just get around now. Lorna, you're wondering about ticks and whether there's a purpose for them in the ecosystem? Well, in my mind, no. They're just an irritation that cause mass amounts of itching and just kind of cause havoc wherever they go. They ruin our pretty cats and also make our legs look as though we have some sort of skin disease. But I suppose there must be a function for them. They provide certainly a lot of food for many animals. So, you know, without them we wouldn't have oxpeckers, we wouldn't have various other, you know, insects that prey upon ticks and various other birds and things. So I suppose without them there would be a bit of a sort of gap in terms of a food chain. But I mean, for me, I have no like of ticks or love of ticks at all. They certainly feel the opposite way for me, because if I go anywhere near a tick, I am ended up covered in big red welts all over the place, whereas many others don't get that. I know that Steph is like me, also gets absolutely hammered, whereas Brent, for some reason, ticks just have a phobia for Brent. I'm not sure why. I wonder if it's maybe that long hair of his or something. I don't know. But I get absolutely punished by ticks, and it's not very fun at all. So, they do have a role in the ecosystem. Everything out here has a role, but I certainly don't like them at all. Anyway, while we contemplate ticks and the liking of them and what they actually get up to, let's send you across to James, who, well, has followed his feathered friends to their home, and I wonder what's happening at the Hammerkop nest today.
We're very interesting here. We are very interesting. It's very interesting watching these Hammerkops. I know that we have been watching them for a while with Jamie and Taylor specifically, but it's been fascinating to see these Hammerkops and how the inner chamber is being built by the one. So eventually, for those of you who don't know, this nest will probably weigh in excess of 50 kilograms. It'll be a great pile of sticks, and well, in the closer proximity to camps, there's another one being added. In closer proximity to camps, it will also contain sometimes pieces of old computer, shoes, insulation tape, various bits of plastic. They'll use whatever they can, but out here, of course, because they've largely got sticks to build with, that's what they use. And you can see the walls of the inner chamber there, which will eventually be lined with dung, I think, are being constructed, and it'll eventually be enclosed entirely with just a little tunnel providing access to that very safe haven for the little chicks. Now, why it is that this bird needs to go through quite so much effort to make its nest, I'm not really sure. It's quite possible that they spend a little bit less energy on the actual eggs themselves. Maybe they are laid such that the baby is born very altricial, and then maybe it stays blind and featherless for longer than other birds do because of the safety provided by this nest. The other thing they do, of course, is use the nest repeatedly. They won't build this every single year. But this is going to take a long time for them to construct. Safari Dreamer, you want to know when they lay eggs. I don't know what season it is that they lay their eggs. I can find out for you though. Stand by 1 second and I will do it. Hammerkop, breeding. They monogamous solitary nester. Yes, we know that. Nest. Can take. This is interesting. Nest building can be as quick as 40 to 43 days, or take months. In this case, we're looking at months. May start with first laid egg, but sometimes delayed until third egg period. 26 to 30 days. Oh, sorry, 3 to 9 eggs, and they're normally laid. It doesn't say. It says any time of the year. So, no particular time of the year, and they're laid sort of sequentially. So 3 to 9 eggs laid sequentially, and they might not actually be incubated until the third egg is laid. So she'll lay 2 and just leave them unincubated until the third one is laid. That's quite interesting. They don't have a very high success rate though. So apparently of 85 eggs observed in this particular research project, 24 hatched and only 16 fledged. That's interesting. That was about 30% apparently. And Fern, you say you're very impressed with their building techniques, and just as I continue to read here, Fern, you'll be interested to know that the main cause of losses in this particular research to these chicks was in fact barn owls. So barn owls, they're quite small, and they obviously are hole nesters themselves, or like to go into holes, are able to access the chamber there and filch out the little ones. This is really quite fascinating. What a perfect place they've chosen to build it, because, you know, just about every drive we come past this area, unless we're in the northern parts of the triangle. Very cool. Okay, I think we should probably press on now. It's almost time for breakfast, believe it or not. See what Simon has created for us today. There they are. Okay. On we go, Archie, on we go. We're just going to wait for this car to belch dust over us first. The wind is starting to come up. I'm just going to try and sneak past these people. There we are. Okay.
Now, unfortunately, it seems as though James got a few gremlins aboard that are giving him some trouble. At least Thamba is posing as, well, good as anyone could ask for. Is that even proper English? No, probably not. As well as anyone could ask for. He is sitting eye level with us at the moment on top of a termite mound, and it's just absolutely beautiful. He's kind of watching what's going on. He every now and then gives a little gaze up into the sky as he watches some of the birds come past and various other things that are happening around him. You know, he can't keep his eyes from looking at things, and now he seems to have locked on to something. He's decided, no, there he goes. What have you seen, Thamba? Because you're now trotting as though you've seen something. Oh, here we go. It just doesn't stop. Every time you guys come to us, he decides to run off. I don't know why. He sits nicely on a mound, and then as soon as there's somebody that needs to, well, as soon as we need to sit and watch him, he goes running off again. So I don't know what he's seen, but he's definitely seen something. Let's just try and get to where he is. He's run quite far already. I'm trying to get through all of these thickets with this roof, which is not ideal. There he is. He's on the road now, and he's kind of moving southwards again. You can see why he's a tough cat to actually find, because his movement is a lot. He doesn't sit still. He's not like Hosana, who's fairly kind of slow and methodical about what he does, and kind of Hosana just goes from one place to another and is very, very sort of predictable in a way with his movements, whereas Thamba is the complete opposite. He's just kind of all over the place. He'll go south, and he'll go north, and he'll go east, and he'll go west, and he moves quite quickly. You can see he's kind of striding his way down the road, and it's not like he takes long to get to wherever he's going. The other thing is that he's very aware of his environment, so he seems to pick things up very quickly, and then off he goes straight away towards it. Now, I have a feeling he might be heading to another termite mound that is just here as well, that he might be going up onto. So I'm just going to go ahead of him quickly just to see if he is going to head in that direction. He should. The game path does take him generally in that way. He's stopped for now though. Let's just see. I wonder if there maybe isn't something here that he's stalking. Just want to see. So the mound that I'm talking about is on where this big tall tree is over here. Where's Thamba? He should be coming through on the right side. Don't see him now. Looks like he's stopped behind us a little bit. Let's check. Sorry, the mound's actually on our... Oh, there is a mound there, that's right. That is the one I was thinking of. So there's one on my left and one here. This tall one is the one I was thinking of. But it's not as big and as impressive as some of the other mounds we've been on today. Do you see him now, Sens? He was just on my right hand side here, so he should be coming this way. This is what happens when you try and be a little clever and try and get ahead. You get to lose them very quickly, which is not ideal. So I'll try and see if I can find him. While I do that, let's send you back across to Ali, who hopefully is going to get a break in her luck and find that Shadulu after searching all morning.
Well, I was hoping so, but definitely no signs of her around the area where we were. So we've decided to come a little bit into... back into Djuma, see if perhaps we could find her there, and then nothing, unfortunately. So I wonder if she even came in here into Djuma at all, or if she went somewhere else, or perhaps she's just hiding. And, you know, thinking about it from a logical perspective, had she actually made a kill, very likely, and if it wasn't Did an Impala, very likely she would have dragged it under a tree, just to try and eat some of it before possibly putting it up a tree. So she could be hiding in very thick bush, but like we said, I'm not entirely sure where she could be. So I think we've abandoned our search for Shidulu for the time being. And, well, we're seeing if perhaps we can find anything else around this particular area, which is quite open, and it would be wonderful if we did. Now, I did pick something along the way. Let's see where it is. It's here, and it looks like a tiny little watermelon, almost. But let me just stop the car to make this easier. And, well, I don't know, it could also look like a tiny little watermelon, perhaps even a yellow tomato. And it's attached normally to a beautiful flower that we do not have around here, or at least, well, around the car. But it's attached to a beautiful flower that's purple on the sides, and then it's got a yellow middle. So if I do manage to find it, then I will show them to you. Oh, sorry, I'm getting carried away there. Carrying the fruit away. Now the fruit is ripe, hence why the yellow color, but when it's not ripe or when it's ripening, it's of a greenish color, hence looking like a tiny little watermelon. This particular fruit belongs to a flower called the poison apple. Funny enough, and although it looks like an apple, it's more closely related to eggplants than actually apples. I'm just gonna stop moving it to make your life easier. It's gonna roll. Don't roll. Stay. Now, this tiny little thing, it's extremely poisonous, so you should never eat it. Like with everything in nature, if it's got a very bright color, you should probably think twice before even putting it anywhere near your eyes or your mouth. Now, part of the reason why it's so poisonous, it's believed that if you ingest it, it can actually make your bowels swell and then potentially even explode. You'll be ill very, very quickly. Ironically, it seems like elephants and impala are not really that much bothered by this family of plants or even by the fruits, and they actually enjoy ripping apart the whole fruit and eating the roots and eating the fruit itself. It doesn't seem like the poison affects it the same way that it can affect other animals, like, for example, the cattle. So there's been a few studies around that are being done just to prove that wild animals can actually enhance the lives of cattle or sheep or whatever it is that you would like to have, because they are able to come and they'll pretty much be the main predators of this particular species, and then they'll eat it and they'll take it out of the environment, thus preventing for some of the cattle or domestic animals from eating it. So it's been suggested by certain conservationists and scientists that if you want to do pest control, let's put it that way, or poison apple control, the best way is to either bring impalas or elephants into your land. Now, I'm not too sure how that would work in practical terms, but it's quite an interesting thought just to think that, they're calling it almost like a win-win situation for conservation and domestic animals. So it'll be interesting to see if actually anyone takes up on it. I haven't read anything about people doing it, but it's quite interesting how a tiny little thing could either kill humans and cattle, but it would not kill impalas or elephants. Quite interesting, isn't it? All right, I'm going to put it back in here, and then we're going to drop it off a little bit later. It is today. I thought it was the 21st. Well, James Richard, you're commenting that it would be great. The 17th. I thought it was the 21st. World Pangolin Day. So we are hoping for a pangolin. Funny enough, and you'll laugh at me, but as we were driving earlier on, I just spotted something on a tree, and I was like, oh, could be a pangolin. And then I looked and I was like, no, definitely not a pangolin. It's a truck, or not a truck, sorry, the trunk of a tree, the fallen off trunk of a tree. So not a pangolin, and I was really sad about it. If you're hearing that, there's a plane flying on top of us, but I would love to see a pangolin. Would love to see a pangolin. So I'm going to carry on probably making that my mission, seeing a pangolin in bright daylight. And while I look for the pangolin and wish me luck, send you over to Tristan for another look of Thamba.
Well, we are just found Thamba again now. He's on top of a termite mound, but I'm just trying to get ourselves into a better position, because the way he was lying was kind of facing a funny way, and with the poles that we've got, it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to actually get a proper view. So Senzo, just tell me when you've got the gap there, because the pole, these roof poles, this cloud and rain must go away, because the roof drives me crazy. But anyway, it's fine. It's a necessary evil, if you want to call it that, because otherwise, well, we're not going to be able to show you anything if it starts raining, because everything is going to get wet and damaged. So rather have the roof than anything else. Now you can see Thamba again is on the mound that we were talking about. This is underneath that big tall tree that we were referring to. It just took a rather roundabout way to get here, and kind of went back onto the road first and then decided to come towards this tree, and now he's sitting and grooming himself once again. He must be the cleanest cat in the Sabi Sands, because I think this is about the 6th time he's groomed himself in the space of this morning's drive. Every time he stops, he does this full-on grooming, and I'm wondering if he maybe just positioned himself here because at least there's a little bit of shade from this tree if the sun does come out. It is seriously uncomfortable though this morning. It is hot, it is humid and muggy. It feels like there's rain is about to come down at any second, and it's actually not very pleasant at all. It's kind of that horrible humidity where you move and you start to perspire, which is not ideal. So I'm sure as a cat it must be a little on the uncomfortable side, given that, you know, they've got this fur coat, which imagine wearing a thick jersey in humid weather. It can't be the most pleasant thing. But I am hoping this is where Thamba will eventually relax for the day, because otherwise from here finding him will be quite tough. There's a few spots that I would imagine he'll go to, but it's not going to be very easy. If he does move from this position, it's going to be a little harder to find him. Well, we kind of see if Thamba does decide to move, if he's going to behave himself and sit on the mound for the rest of the morning, or if he's going to actually carry on. Let's send you back across to James, who's got something that is not spotty, but rather has very interesting stripes.
Now we are sitting with some Grant's zebras that are wandering up towards the top of the escarpment. I'm sure that they are most pleased with the lack of the Orololo pride, as much as we are disappointed by their absence here. And they, rather like the wildebeest, will find it difficult to graze in amongst this very long grass. And I don't think it's a surprise that they are in and amongst quite often the herds of buffalo that are coming through here. And then to the right of them we have got some water pigs. There are the water pigs, digging away with their snouts. Very relaxed water pigs, which is very nice. And then a very lonely soul to the right of the water pigs. There, just standing up on his own, staring wistfully into the forests, is a topi. To my mind, the most magnificent of the antelope out here. There's a little bit of heat haze, it looks like, in the background there, but this wind that is blowing, that I'm sure you can hear, it's actually quite chilly. Jacqueline, as we look at the topi, you say, have I ever seen one or seen a crocodile walking along the road here? No, Jacqueline, I've never seen a crocodile walking along the road here. The best crocodile out of water story comes from, unsurprisingly, Brent Leo Smith, who tracked one all the way from Twin Dams at Djuma up to Buffelshoek Dam and found it half or about 2/3 of the way there. So it's possible that we could find a crocodile on the road here, but because the river is continuous, it's not sort of patchy water like it would be in the Kruger. It's highly, highly unlikely, unless there was a severe drought, that you'd find crocodiles out of that water and not using it as a thoroughfare as much as they'd use it as a home, if you know what I mean. So they're not going to cross land to go to other water when they could travel in the water to go to other water. Does that make sense? So no, I've never seen a crocodile walking along here. I've also never seen a crocodile track on a road like this, but I mean, seeing any tracks on a road like this is very difficult. Let's go back to the zebras. Isn't it amazing how the colours change, how the sounds change, how the movement of the air changes completely, and how the light turns everything from, well, I don't know what it is now. It's very pale pastel colours at the moment. Sort of overwhelmingly bright golds and pinks and reds and of the emeralds, I suppose, of the dawn are replaced by much more subtle colours this time of the day. And eventually it'll just kind of burn out. And the topi has finally noticed that he's being filmed. Scarlett, you say, have I done a ride in the Mara yet on horseback? Scarlett, I have not. I would quite like to do that, but I'm not sure where the horse people are at the moment. They have these fly camping operations, so they don't have a camp necessarily. They go from place to place. And I've never done it here. As I've told a few of you, I've done a few horse safaris in South Africa, but I've never done them here. I'd really love to do a horse safari here. It looks like enormous fun. But it is not for the... I wouldn't say that it would... I would hate to be a horse guide out here, because riding horses is obviously a skill you develop over years, certainly mastering riding horses, and the number of people I have met and in fact been on rides with who say, oh yes, I can ride a horse, meaning that I have sat on a horse before, which of course is very different from being able to ride a horse. The number of people I've been on rides with like that are innumerable, and watching people nearly die because they have underestimated riding a horse has also been quite amusing, if not scary. And to do that in an area that's brimming full of predators and other potentially dangerous animals, I think would be quite scary. So I would hate to be a horse guide out here, much as I'd love to actually ride a horse myself here. I am constantly reminded of the times that we as children used to go to the mountains in the Drakensberg, and they used to have these rides there that were a sort of extreme sport, where how I didn't watch the death of a human being there, I'm really not sure. Such is our hubris. Okay, let's go back across to Tristan yet again. He is with the rock.
Indeed I am with the rock, although the rock is on the move again. He's decided to move. There's a scrub here that's just run. And impalas on that side. Okay, so he's hunting impalas. That's what he's busy doing. No wonder he's moving. Alright, let's try and figure out where I'm going to park you, because he should be on... The rock gathers no moss. Exactly, Jared. He is a mobile creature. He cannot afford to get mossy, as that will impede his ability to find these impalas. Now, where has he gone? Because he was here. There he is. Ooh, that's quite nice, actually. He's kind of, look at this, look at the pose he's in. He's kind of got this very, very cool pose where he's down low to the ground and he's just kind of stalking forward. How cool is that? He's got it really kind of very low at the moment. That's very cool. He's definitely stalking these impalas, so whether or not he's going to get this right, I'm not quite sure, because at the moment the impalas are down in the drainage and they've got a long way to kind of go. So he's got a situation where he's going to have to try and get himself a little closer. There he goes. You can see, look, he's gotten himself into a situation where he's obviously figured out he can get down into this drainage, so he's dropping just down below the car, and he's probably going to stop right here when he tries to work out now where he wants to go. The impalas are just through on my right hand side on this thicket. You can hear them now. Listen. I think they spotted him. Look how he's trying to sit down. You see, there we go. So he's just dropping his bum down. Now I don't want to start, because if the impalas have seen some sort of sign, there we go, you can hear them calling now. If I start, I'm going to certainly make more attention sort of be drawn towards him. So what I'm going to try and do is just go back slightly. Hopefully that's not going to alert anybody to his presence. But now he's got a situation where he's just sitting down. And I've also got another friend here as well. There's so many insects in this car this morning. It is quite something. Okay, buddy, but you can't jump all over me. So I've got a jumping spider, or a Salticidae, that is jumping all over the place here and spinning webs as it's doing so. It's a really pretty spider. So I actually want to try and show you guys. Sense, is that too close? I'm going to try and just... No, don't jump around. You're jumping too much. Come on. That way. There we go. So it's jumping about on my jersey, which is this beautiful, like I say, it's a beautiful Salticidae, which means they are jumping spiders. No, you can't go down my shirt. No, that's not on. Okay, let's get you off. Come. No, that's my leg. Oh, goodness. Into my shoe. So we'll try and carry on, try and see. Now, Thamba, I don't think is going to get any luck with these impalas, unfortunately. They've definitely seen him because they've been shouting, and I can see them drifting away through the thicket now. They're going away from us. So I don't think he's going to be hunting them with any degree of success. Spider off my leg. And so I think probably have a situation where he's going to lie down like this and then reposition himself, and hopefully we'll have a situation where he'll at least come right during the day when we're not bothering him. But it is that time, though, where we're going to start heading back to camp. It is time for Amanda's breakfast, and so we're going to head off there hopefully this afternoon. There's lots of interesting prospects around, with Thamba being around hunting. We've got Shadulu, who apparently has made this mystery kill somewhere that we need to try and find as well. And, well, there's lion tracks and buffalo tracks too, so you never know what's going to happen. But from Ali and James and Kirsten FC and myself, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope to see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari.